Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Oh, good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, April 10th, and welcome to episode 169 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Jesse Burrell, joined as always by Riley McConnell. And Riley, the Toronto Blue Jays returned home after a very long and very tough road trip and were able to get a series win against the Seattle Mariners. But boy, did it sure feel like we should have gotten the sweep into this one. We'll talk about all that in this episode, from player performances to the new renovations we saw at Rogers Center and so much more to come out of this first series because, man, there were a lot of talking points. But before we dive too deep into all that, Riley, how you feeling? We finally have Blue Jays baseball back in our home city. It's got to feel great. Tell me how you're feeling.
I mean, hey, I would have felt a lot better. We're about 25 minutes, half an hour removed from an extra innings loss. Our first appearance in extra innings this season, where, I mean, we lost the ball game 6-1 after really good ball games in games 1 and 2 of this series. So, I mean, on the scorecard, 6-1, it feels like it should have been a lot tighter. We got the series win. I think that's the biggest takeaway. I don't want to come here and crap on the guys. We needed a series win. We did just that. We're one game below 500 early in the year and still a very tough division around us. We know what we're playing for this year, and we have another series coming up at home. And I think we're going to see more of the same in the next series. But for this series, Jesse, yeah, the game 3 loss is tough, but it's good to pull out the series win.
Series wins always feel fantastic, but it does feel a little sour when it's that last game of the series that you lose. I've never been a fan of that. Let's dive into it a little bit here. With that being said, guys, first remember, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. You can follow us on any of the social medias, and you can find the show anywhere you can find your podcast, so make sure you stick around and stay along with us all season. And for the reference, I was at the Blue Jays home opener on Tuesday. I've been to a bunch of concerts this week. My voice is not usually as what it's up to normally, so we're going to have to deal with that as we get on. Just like the Blue Jays offense sometimes fighting through things, I'm fighting through some things on this podcast episode here today. So stick with me with that. But let's get into the game recaps for those of you who might have missed some of this series. Game 1, the Blue Jays win this game 5-2. The Blue Jays took the field at home for the first time, and Jose Berrios got us started, pitching 6 2/3 shutout innings, his best start of the season so far. On the offensive side of the ball, Justin Turner led off the second with a double. Alejandro Kirk drove him in 2 batters later. Vlad, Bo, and Turner all reached base in the third, and Davis Schneider had a clutch 2-run RBI to give the Jays some insurance. Vlad, Schneider, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa all had multiple hits in the game, and Jimmy Garcia and Chad Green shut the door to give the Blue Jays the first win of the series at home. In game 2 of the series, the Jays won 5-3. Chris Bassitt followed up Berrios' great start with his best start of the young season, pitching into the 7th inning as well. Bo Bichette went yard for his first home run of the season, a 2-run shot into the second deck. George Springer, Justin Turner, Kevin Biggio, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa all had multiple hits in this game. Trevor Richards did allow a home run and some home runs late, but Chad Green was able to get the save, and the Jays win back-to-back games for the first time this year. And in game 3, the game that Riley was just talking about there, it is the Jays losing 6-1 to the Seattle Mariners in 10 innings. Yusei Kikuchi and Logan Gilbert got into what it might have been the best pitchers duel we've seen so far this season. It was a 1-0 ball game until Vladimir Guerrero Jr. roped a massive home run, his 3rd of the season. The Jays had a chance to walk it off in the 9th, but Alejandro Kirk flew out to right, and then 2 batters later, Ernie Clement had a flare that just got into Jorge Polanco's glove, and then Seattle exploded to 5 in the top of the 9th thanks to Cal Riley and Mitch Haniger, and the Jays just simply could not make a comeback coming into that. So after the series, the Jays have a 6-7 record. We're still dead last in the AL East, 4.5 games back of the 10-2 New York Yankees. Not ideal there, but a lot of baseball still to be played here. Riley, a lot of talking points, a lot of storylines. Who gets your first thumbs up for the Toronto Blue Jays in this series?
Well, I only have 2 thumbs on, my body essentially. But Jesse, the 3 thumbs up, and in any order. I mean, it's our starting pitching in this series. Jose Berrios,
Absolutely.
Chris Bassitt, Yusei Kikuchi. It's unfortunate that, between Berrios and Bassitt, they only went 6 2/3. Whatever. Yusei Kikuchi in his 6 innings doesn't matter. The strikeouts were great on Bassitt and Kikuchi's line. I think it was 8 strikeouts Bassitt, 9 for Kikuchi, and then Berrios was getting great pitch to contact type stuff and really limiting basically base runners, surrendering 4 hits and a walk in his line. I mean, what this team, we knew going into this year that we were going to get the same. And you can add, I mean, Gausman has struggled this year, to say the least. Let's say that. And against the Mariners team that has beat up on us at home in the past, it's really good to see our starting pitchers go up against their guys. Seattle Mariners might have arguably the best rotation in all of baseball and some of the best pitchers in that. It's really good to see us contend with the Mariners. And I mean, they did that. Berrios did his job. 6 2/3, a really good ball. Chris Bassitt, again, 6 2/3. He did his thing, dished out 8 punch outs. And then Yusei Kikuchi, a guy that was facing his former club, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. And with Kikuchi, when he gets those numbers and only gives up 2 walks as well, when you see Kikuchi get his command in, it's unfortunate he didn't get the win in this ball game. I mean, hey, dude, it's a 1-1 ball game till the top of the 10th inning. It's unfortunate it went down that way. But our pitchers kept us in this game, like game 3 today. It kept us in this series. Is why we ended up winning the series and taking 2 out of 3 was because of our starting pitchers.
Yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays starting pitching staff, which kind of fluctuated for a little bit early in the season, really it put a stamp on the season here, and this series was really good. Jamie Campbell mentioned this after the postgame today, that the Blue Jays have yet to score a run for Yusei Kikuchi when he's been on the mound so far this season, which floored me. But if you look back and actually see that, it is very true. So let's get Yusei Kikuchi some run supports. Going into your other 2 starters, yeah, they are both fantastic. With Jose Berrios, every time he pitches, I want to see what he looks like with the cutter, and he threw 6 cutters in this start, which is the most he's thrown yet. And I think it goes to show his numbers against left-handed hitters have been really, really good this year. And I think part of that is because he's been putting that cutter inside to kind of keep them off balance. So I do think really good things are coming from Jose Berrios, especially because lefties used to always be his kryptonite, right? And if he's really disabled that, then I think good things are coming. And with Chris Bassitt, 2 things. First, the velocity was up again. Great to see because it was down a bit of a spring and then it crept up. Every pitch was at least 1.5 miles per hour faster today than it had been on the season so far. And also, Riley, we threw Chris Bassitt 115 pitches. Like, I understand he's a hound dog, but boy, he wasn't going for a no-hitter or anything here. It seems like a lot of pitches, but also Chris Bassitt's not your flamethrower, so it's probably not as much tension on his elbow as it is for other ones. And with Yusei Kikuchi, the slider was the pitch today. Big, sweeping. It got, I think, 6 swinging strikes, which he didn't have any coming into the series here today. And just really good stuff from Kikuchi as well. Looked very sharp. This might have been some of the best I've seen him. So you're giving the starting pitchers some thumbs up, Riley. I'm giving the starting pitchers thumbs up. It's good to see, and let's hope it continues against the Rockies coming up this weekend.
We'll certainly need that. We won't have the same 3 guys going for us, obviously, but if we can get some variation, some more or less the same style of pitching, we're in good shape. And then it comes down to offense, of course. We split the series on runs. I know we won the series, but I like to keep track of runs and run differentials. 11 runs scored, 11 runs against. So you could argue pitching very good ERA coming out of that series. For some pitchers, I'll say that.
Yes.
But not a great series to, tack on a ton of good hitting stats, which will segue into the next thing I'm going to say for my next kind of thumbs up. I know I'm going to slot all the starters in one, but for a guy that sneakily is creeping up his hitting stats, Jesse, and did we pin this guy wrong, perhaps, to start the year? But when a 39-year-old Justin Turner becomes one of the more potent bats in our lineup early in the year and has really helped us. And I'll say this, there hasn't been a ton of clutch hits. Sure. There hasn't been the opportunity, but he's keeping the ball rolling. He's passing the baton, and it's weird for a cleanup hitter to do that. But Jesse, I mean, he at least has, I think 5 hits in this series. And you said Kiner Fleff had a bunch of hits, but I don't know how many times we'll see that. But Jesse, could we possibly be seeing Justin Turner doing more of this year? I don't know if this is early success and we could see a tremendous drop in July, but I'm really liking it. I had this guy pinned wrong. What Justin Turner is doing at the plate, it has been great. And there was some really bad hacks in the first series of the year where he was behind pitches, not swinging up pitches out of the zone too much on his outside part of the plate, but a lot of, inside fastballs not catching up. But he's picked a spot and he's been able to pull the baseball and drive that thing. And he's been looking really good to start this year. Not what I expected. I will say that. And I know you're on board as well.
Yeah, I do want to give Justin Turner some love because we were very tough on him coming into this season, but most of it was him not being able to catch up to the four-seam fastball. But I'm looking at his numbers here, Riley, so far this season. Justin Turner's best pitch he's hit this year has been the four-seam fastball. He has a higher run value on that pitch than he does against any other pitch he's seen so far this year. And if you look at the batted ball profile for Justin Turner this season, he has a 0% weak percentage contact. Like, he just hasn't hit a weak ball yet. His solid percentage rate is higher. His barrel rate is highest it's been since like 2019 for Justin Turner. He is off to a very, very good start. He's slugging over 1,000 against off-speed pitches this year, which just, wow, blew my mind when I saw that from Justin Turner. He has absolutely been impressive. The RBIs and runs, they will come, but he's doing his thing. He's been more than impressive so far from what a 39-year-old would do or would perform here. And I want to throw some love to another hitter in our lineup, and I want to throw some love to what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been doing. He had that really good start in Tampa, then a really rough series going through New York and in through Houston. And then even though he went 0 for 5 in game 2, he hit a massive home run today. I think it was a 1-1 slider from Logan Gilbert right down the middle of the pipe, and he did not miss it. 459 feet, 114.1 miles per hour off of the bat. It was the hardest hit baseball Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has hit this year. On top of that, he had a line drive out too. That was like another 108 miles per hour off the bat. He's always been the type of hitter who can hit the ball hard no matter what. And the fact that he's still getting it hit in the air is always very good. And he's still swinging at the pitches you want to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. swing at. And, it's going to be a good sign of things to come. I do think the MVP caliber season is still in there. And this series went a long way to supporting that claim for me, for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
It's easy to win an MVP when your numbers to start the year are good. You don't want to be behind the 8 ball to start the year. It's very important. I mean, we're saying this about Justin Turner now. Things could change, but we're going, the thing about Buds and Blue Jays is we go series by series. And in this specific series, and so far this year, Turner has performed. Vladdy, there was a lot of shaking my head early on in the year, but it slowly crept up in a way. And I think that we will see more of the same. I mean, the fact that he's hitting baseballs hard at a different launch angle is all but way too important for his game, because that needs to happen. The Jays, as far you want to talk about things that Jays have not done this year, and I mean, you could look at we're not going to get into stolen bases, but we'll get into home runs right now. And I believe that this team isn't destined to hit a ton of home runs unless Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is leading that charge. And he's starting off on the right foot. I don't know if he's going to be a 40 home run hitter this year. The potential is always there, Jesse. In series like this, it makes you think like, hey, wind it back to 2021. Let's do that again. Shohei Ohtani's not in the American League anymore. Can he get that MVP caliber season in him? Juan Soto has moved to the American League now, and he's looking pretty good in New York. It doesn't matter. Vlad is basically playing against himself right now. He's trying. I want to see better career numbers than 2022, 2023. I think for sure we're going to get that. If we get the MVP, great. But the power numbers should be there.
Seems like he's off to a really strong start so far. I want to see more of that coming forward. Another Blue Jay who were kind of our picks to click going into the series. Bo Bichette hit his first home run off George Kirby. It was a 2-strike curveball that he hung to the bottom of the zone. We've seen Bo Bichette for years be able to take that pitch and turn on it. He hit one into the second deck as well. Good to see Bo Bichette get on the board with his first one. And for my last thumbs up, my positive before we get down into some of the negatives that went on with the Toronto Blue Jays this series. Did you see what Jimmy Garcia did today, Riley? Like, holy crap. That was impressive. He threw a pitch, 99.8 miles per hour, probably the fastest that Jimmy Garcia has ever thrown a pitch. And then the wipeout sliders and sweepers that got to the other side of the zone. I have never seen Jimmy Garcia look that good before. And I don't think it's going to be long before he's in the back end of our bullpen. He's our main setup man. If for whatever reason Jordan Romano isn't good to go, Jimmy Garcia could be our best relief pitcher in that bullpen. He looked to me like he's a top 10 reliever in all of baseball from what I've seen from Jimmy Garcia today. And wow, I literally said wow watching from my couch.
I will not dispute that. Pitchers, especially coming out of the bullpen, are a lot different than starters. You have your scheduled starts for starters. Bullpen pitchers, it's you never know. It's the unexpected aspect of it. And I think Garcia knows that he's going to be put into the ball games without Jordan Romano, without Eric Swanson. He has now basically moved up that depth chart to be the high leverage guy. If it were up to me, I mean, I'm not going to probably talk about Chad Green too much on this episode, but I would switch their roles up because, and I would have had him in for the 2 innings he pitched today. They were fantastic. But Jimmy Garcia is our best relief pitcher right now. I think that is undisputed. And I think if he's hot, and Romano comes back, struggles, Swanson comes back and struggles, whatever. I don't think anything's guaranteed. We have now shown, Jesse, that we clearly need those 2 arms back. It's not on Garcia. Mesa got lit up today. Mitch White isn't exactly your household name in a ball game right now. And I know you like Nate Pearson. He didn't give up a hit. He walked a guy in his outing. That's great. But how long can Nate Pearson hold the wheels on? We don't know. We really need those guys back. But yeah, Jesse Garcia, 100 miles an hour. I saw him do it in spring training once, but officially
he might have done it this spring. Yeah,
in a regular season game, I think it's the first time he's touched 100, and that's awesome because everything else is there to go with it.
Yeah, let's touch a little bit on Tim Mesa and Mitch White, who you mentioned there. He was the reason we lost this game. And last episode, we talked about how Tim Mesa just did not look like he had it. The fastball lost its zip. The velocity is way down. And I knew the second this game went into extra innings that Chad Green wasn't going to be available tonight. Trevor Richards wasn't going to be available tonight. Like, you knew the Jays were in trouble once they couldn't get out the win in the bottom of the ninth. I thought it would take longer than one pitch from Tim Mesa for that to happen, but unfortunately it's not the case. But I'm still convinced he's hurt. John Schneider said after the game he's still fully confident he can work himself out of it. But like, to me, this almost screams, if he is truly not hurt, to me this seems like it's a guy who's just going through the yips or a guy who's just lost his mechanics. And with pitching, you have to be so on all the time that if you don't have your good stuff, then you need a reset almost. And I don't think it would be surprising for us to see when Swanson, when Romano get back, Tim Mesa maybe go on the IL or maybe go for a little rehab stint or something to get right.
It really grinded my gears, Jesse. We know that they're the runner on second rule. The first pitch to a guy who has absolutely destroyed us. And they showed a graphic on Sportsnet out of Cal Raleigh's how many career home runs. He has 9 against the Blue Jays, more than any other team. I know that the pitch wasn't whether it missed a spot or not. And Cal Raleigh has done his damage from the left side of the plate. Well, clearly he can do it from both sides. He hit an opposite field home run on the first pitch. I wouldn't have gave him anything. Personally, I like the idea of having the force on anyways in this situation.
To walk him.
2 outs, runner on first. Like that. Hey, I'm not the manager. And John Schneider may have done some questionable things in this series. He's done some things right. But he's nowhere near close to a chopping block. But I don't have 100% faith in them. And you know what? At the end of the day, it kind of is what it is. We can look back and be salty about it, or we can look forward. Jesse, I'm still optimistic.
Okay.
But it's unfortunate.
I think at the end of the day, too, if the Jays just blow the game open in game 2 of this series and we don't have to use Trevor Richards and we don't have to use Chad Green in that game, they're available to pitch in game 3, and then we probably win this game 2, and it's a whole nother series. But that's a story for another day. Riley, there were just some other player notes that did catch my attention this series. Davis Schneider got his first start against a righty and collected 2 more hits in game 2 of this series. I've been impressed with what Cavan Biggio has been doing, particularly on defense. I thought he looked pretty good out on second base. He made some very nice, slick plays out there, especially from a guy who's played a lot of right field this year. And then Kevin Kiermaier, man, like, okay, he is terrible at the plate. I think I said before the show, like, he leads the AL in strikeout rate, which is awful. And as Mark said here, he seems like a liability hitting, and I would agree. But he still makes some very impressive plays in the outfield. Like in game 1 in the home opener, he went to the gap to, I think it was Mitch Haniger, to keep him to a single. And then literally the next play, he threw a ball to third base, which would have been an out on a single if Isaiah kind of left. I just remembered how to tag somebody. He still does very impressive things with the ball. And it's like, I realize why he's still in the lineup, but like, man, you got to really do something with the bat, Kevin Kiermaier, to justify it, or else I'm going to vouch for Varsho in the lineup full-time over him.
I really, I thought it was cool. They got the Gold Glove Awards, of course, and before the game. Honor Kiermaier, he makes a great play. Man, did that really grind my gears? Like that is Jesse. I always go back to things like fundamental baseball. I know we won the ball game, and it's nothing for me to gripe about, but it's still important because if that's in a different situation, if the sack full or we're in a tighter ball game, if it's a situation like that, and you miss a tag when a guy's dead to rights, slide into third like that. I mean, you got to know how a human body is, and a third baseman. I would argue it's almost a more important tag than at second base. When the ball is live, it's not a stolen base situation. He should know better. Doesn't matter. Won't gripe about it. But yeah, Kevin Kiermaier, I believe whatever the strikeout rate is, like it's not compensated by power. It's not compensated by on-base percentage. So what is there? We're left with an elite fielder. That's great. Dalton Varsho, also very good. What do we do with this Blue Jays lineup? I think we still see what Kiermaier can do for another week or so. But an 1 for 15, an 0 for 15, heck, even a 2 for 15 run at the plate just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, or at least put the ball in play, Kevin Kiermaier. Like, you're so fast, you can cause trouble. You can put pressure on the defense. Just the strikeouts are really tough to live with Kevin Kiermaier, and I am hoping that he can get better with that going forward. Some other player notes that caught my attention. We did talk about Bo Bichette hit his first home run. George Springer had a very impressive at-bat in Game 2 of this series. I'm pretty sure he had 8 straight foul balls at one point before getting an RBI single into drive-in Dalton Varsho. That might have been one of the best at-bats I've seen Cavan Biggio have in a long time. And I thought Varsho too. He's still struggling a little bit, but I thought he's had some good at-bats lately. It's slowly starting to come around for Dalton Varsho, and I still think he's going to have a big season coming. And two more things, I guess. Ernie Clement got hit in the ribs in Game 2, and it was right back into the lineup in Game 3, so tough boy, Ernie Clement. And Alejandro Kirk started all 3 games in this series. We've only seen Brian Serven have, 2 starts now so far in the season? And I really thought day game after night game, maybe the off day tomorrow means something, and maybe they just credit to the starting pitching pitch so well, maybe because Kirk was behind the plate the whole time, but I really did think we'd see more of Brian Serven so far. Do you have a quick thought on any of those before I move on?
Nah, we can move on. Honestly, I don't know how effective Serven's going to be, and Kirk hasn't really worked me up too bad to start this year, so we'll keep Alejandro Kirk in the lineup. It seems to be at least above replacement for the meantime.
Okay, I agree. Some sad at bats from Kirk still, but this is what we expected from.
This is what Jesse. We got Jansen on the IL for a bit longer. We have to deal with this. Like, there is no other option.
Exactly. Like,
unfortunately, Serven is probably not going to hit better than Alejandro Kirk. That's just the difference maker there.
Yep. So we will ride with Alejandro Kirk going with what we're doing there. Some more minor fun things, Riley. We had our first dollar dog night at the Rogers Center. 58,852 hot dogs. If you take the DPS that they were talking about, that's 1.88 hot dogs per fan, which I think is the second most they've ever had at the dollar dog night. I think they're going to shatter some records this year. And Riley, I also want to get your take on what did you think of the new backdrop that they had at Rogers Center this year? It looked very different on TV. I was there. I got to see it in person. I thought it looked kind of cool, but I want to hear your thoughts on what you thought of the backdrop.
Well, I got a picture. I took it. Okay. Third pitch of the game. I have it. The pitch to JP Crawford from Berrios on the way. It looked like a different ballpark.
It does,
and I'm liking it. It's not a bad thing. I was really a fan of our the one I grew up watching. It you can kind of close your eyes and picture it. This is not going to take a long time to get used to. I think the lower wall. I like the lower wall. I like the look of that. And I know that they got the TD things. I like the brick look as well.
Me too.
It's a very clean look. I think that the Rogers Center as a whole has really, since the original renovations back, what was it, 2021 or whatever, when they started and started this ball rolling as far as the big renovations. I like this. It's really easy on the eyes on television. I mean, hey, I'll be there soon enough. But this is not bad to look at from a TV viewer's point of view.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. It gave me like Wrigley Field vibes when I was watching it for the first time, which I thought that was kind of neat. It does make the Rogers Center kind of look more modern on TV, which is something I feel like it has struggled with over the past few years. I don't love how we're a little bit further away now. I find before when we were closer up and had a bigger zoom that we were able to really see the movement on the pitches a lot better that we don't really get to see as well anymore. And I realized they did it to make the ads come up and the ads pop more on things. But when you put a red freaking ad with all that blue, it's hard to focus on the pitch and on the batter, which I guess is what Rogers wants because they're all about selling ads anyway. But as a viewer, I find it made it harder on the eyes to watch. But other than that, I really like the aesthetic of it, and I think it's going to be a good thing going forward.
I'm not. I guess I'm a little more immune to media propaganda than you. Can't fool me. Can't fool me.
That'd be Riley. You hear that, ad companies? You're gonna have to work harder to get into Riley McConnell's head.
Yeah, you can't. I like what I like. Sorry, TD. I will not be. They are a bank. Okay. See, I don't even know what they are fully. I know we got one. We got one close by. I think it's a bank. Anyways, that's not important.
It's not about it here. All right, just a few more wrap-ups of the series before we move on to some stuff, injury reports, and down on the farm. Riley, Danny Jansen has a goatee now. Did you see this when we were doing player introductions? Do you have a thought? Do you have a take?
I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. I
don't. Not a goatee guy, eh?
Dude, you clearly don't look at my face ever, Jesse. I've had a goatee probably 18% of the episodes we've done.
Oh no, I'm aware. But now that someone else has a goatee, you know.
Well, just Danny Jansen. I mean, it kind of. I don't know. Some players look. Justin Turner and his beard fits perfectly.
Sure.
Bichette, his facial hair. Raleigh Fingers, his mustache fits.
Davis Schneider's mustache.
I mean, I you know what? I think that Kevin Biggio and buddy we were just talking about there, Jansen, need a good Gillette sponsorship because I never liked Biggio and what's on his face. And same with Jansen. I mean, they great players. I really like them both. But facial hairs for some people, and mine isn't good either. I'm so damn Irish that I got red, and I don't look, but at least I don't look like I'm 12.
There you go. Noted. Danny Jansen did say if he does struggle early in the season, maybe he'll shave the goatee and get it back to normal. It might not be a full season thing, but we'll see with that going forward. Some minor news and notes to come on coming out of the series. Wes Parsons, who was DFA'd, Riley, was just traded to Cleveland for some international bonus pool money. So basically, yes, the Blue Jays just sold a person. So they'll take the international bonus pool money. Apparently, the Blue Jays have their eyes on some guys. They only had about $36,000 coming into this and now have about $280,000. So sounds like they're going to get a player from the international bonus pool with this one. And just some other bullpen thoughts coming out of here before we can move on to our injuries. Nate Pearson, as you mentioned, did draw a walk, but got the bottom of the order. And I thought Chad Green did pretty well, too, coming out of his starts. And that's really all I've got on the series, Riley. Was there anything else that caught your attention before we move on to some stuff down on the farm?
I wouldn't have gotten Parsons for a pack of bubble gum and a Gatorade jug.
I do think Wes Parsons is still going to have a very good big league career somewhere, kind of like Trent Thornton stuck around, Ryan Brucke is stuck around.
I think that he'll be a hell of a middle innings guy in Korea or Japan. That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the stuff plus number's still good. Just saying.
Yeah, and it'll look great overseas too. He'll have
I'm sure it will. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, some injury notes for the Toronto Blue Jays. Their injured players are slowly getting better. Jordan Romano and Eric Swanson both expected to pitch Thursday at AAA Buffalo. They should be active soon, shortly after that, assuming there's no setbacks. Danny Jansen was the designated hitter in Buffalo today, and I did see he had a bloop single. So good for Danny Jansen. He will catch on Friday, and a late April return seems likely for him. And Alek Manoah will throw a side session here in Toronto tomorrow, and then he will make a rehab start in Buffalo on Saturday. Judging from our last episode where he got lit up for the Dunedin Blue Jays, I don't think we're expecting much, but the clock is now ticking for Alek Manoah to rejoin the roster, and it's good to see that reinforcements will be on the way. Any takeaway from that, Riley?
Manoah. Every time we've talked about him, it's like it's so hard to talk about this guy and to think about what he could have been or still could be. We don't know. He is one of the biggest variables in Major League Baseball right now, and it hurts. It hurts to know that he's struggling down there. I mean, I'm sure it's not. As the humanity side of baseball, looking at it just as a person, I'm sure it's really hard on him. But as a fan, I mean, dude, it's really frustrating to watch him go from being one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball to possibly one of the biggest flubs in recent baseball history.
The Alec Manoah story isn't over. I'm sure we'll see him in the big leagues at some point this season. Down on the farm, Riley, here are 3 things that caught my attention coming from this week in the Toronto Blue Jay system. Will Robertson, who we saw in spring, who is down in Buffalo, has 3 home runs in 5 games. I think he's slugging over 1,000 for Will Robertson, so that is nice to see. Mason Fluharty has been dominant out of the pen in Buffalo, left-handed reliever. If Tim Meza is hurt or we do need someone, keep an eye on Mason Fluharty. I think he could come up. And then Chris, I believe it's Chris McIlvaine. It's who the Blue Jays received from the Reds for Santiago Espinal and made his debut for the single-A Dunedin Blue Jays, and 4 shutout innings in his major league debut for the Santiago Espinal trade. So all seems good with the guys down on the farm. Riley, do you have a quick thought on any of those, or time to move on? I don't either.
Talk about the Rockies.
Yeah, good to know. With that being said, the Blue Jays have a day off, a much-needed day off, I'd say, on Thursday, and we welcome in the 3-10 Colorado Rockies into town. We won't get to see Cal Quantrill pitch, as he's not one of our probable pitchers coming in, so good old Canadian boy there. We will avoid him. Riley, the Jays, it's a trap series against the Colorado Rockies, a team on paper we should destroy. We should do really well against. Rockies coming off from Coors Field. They'll have the Coors Field effect coming back here, which means they might not hit as well. They're not a good hitting team anyway. How are we going to do against the Rockies, man? Are we going to sweep them?
Dude, we both know what we should say here. And yes. Baseball is a funny sport. Let's come into next week a 500 team when we take 2 out of 3. Okay? Let's wipe the slate. Let's hope that games fall around the American League East. Let's hope that, some of our rivals struggle and we can walk out at the weekend a 500 ball club. I think that's really what we need. And then the start of the year has not been a complete failure at all. I mean, let's win this series. Let's win this best of 3. Let's take 2 games. I don't know what games they're going to be, but Jesse, a sweep would be great, but we know how baseball works. The chances are something's going to slip away from us at some point. Why, baseball gods, must you do this? I think 2 out of 3 is just what we need.
I remember we gave up a home run last year to Shea Langoliers, and Oakland beat us in Toronto in game 1 of that series, and we thought everything was falling apart. So something will likely happen again in this series too against the Colorado Rockies. But I agree. Win the series, end the series at a 500 record, and we should be okay going forward. For Riley McConnell, I'm Jesse Burrell. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us this episode. Thank you for getting our first series win. And boy, it sure is good to have Blue Jays baseball back home in Toronto, where all the good things are happening there. We will see you on Sunday to recap the Rockies series, and hopefully a lot of good news storylines to come on the way. We'll see you guys next week. Till then, let's go Blue Jays.